Okay, so this is the equation. Delta D equals VI times delta T plus half of delta T squared. We're trying to find delta VI. So simply, see this plus sign, this is our key to disassembly this. Simply move this whole thing over to the other side, but change the sign from plus to minus. So delta D minus half of A times delta T squared equals to VI times delta T. And the new question is here. How do we get this to nothing but VI? Yes, we get rid of delta T. And how do we get rid of him? We just simply times it by its reflection. Because delta T equals to 1, delta T equals to delta T over 1. But you just don't write it out. And we just time it by delta T over by 1. And scratch and scratch. Get rid of this part, don't think about it, but don't ever forget to time the same thing, which is delta T over by 1 to the other side. But this time, you have to think about it. There is 1 and 2 unit over on the other side. When you're timing this over, you're actually timing both of them. So a simple way to write it is delta T over 1 times bracket delta D minus half of A times delta T squared equals to VI. And if this is pretty much the answer already, but if you want you to simplify it again, just write VI equals to, simply solve this. And remember how to solve how to solve problem like this. So you time this by this minus this. Okay? It's like putting on a pants. You have to put on 2 legs, but differently. And don't forget the minus sign. So simply delta T, 1 over delta T equal time, no. Okay. 1 over delta T times delta D equals to delta D over delta T. And this is the result. Actually, let's do one more step. VI equals to delta T over 1 times delta D. And this is the first answer. This is the first trouser leg. And now we're going to do the second one, right? Don't forget, because this is a minus sign, this is a minus sign. And it is delta T over by 1 times half of A times delta T squared. Okay. And let's simplify this again so we can get the right answer. Equals to delta D over delta T. This is this answer minus give me 1 second. Okay, let's write it a little bit complicated. So to write this out loud, this is actually, well, actually let's write delta T over 1 over delta T first times A times delta T squared divided by 2. So we just simply move all these up to where the 1 used to be and get rid of the 1 and brackets. And this is the simpler version of this. And write it again, equals to delta D equals delta T minus 2 times delta T, 2 delta T over by A times delta T squared. Okay. And is there any way that we can get rid of these? Okay, so to get rid of this 2, we simply just scratch delta t and this 2. Because delta t, let's move back here. Delta t square is actually means delta t times delta t. And so this part simply equals to a times delta t times delta t over 2 delta t. And 2 delta t's are gone, and the whole thing is just going to be 2 over by a times delta t. So that means no square, no delta t, only a times delta t over by 2. And just copy this one down, delta d over delta t minus this, vi equals 2. And that is the fucking answer.